I've tried just about every single popular or viral foundation out there on the market, and today I'm going to be giving you my honest thoughts on them. Now for reference, I do have normal to dry skin, leaning a little bit more dry, sensitive skin, I have discoloration, a little bit of sun damage, beginning stages of fine lines, fun stuff, I know. So I'm going to tell you all of my experiences with these foundations. Now, this is actually part 2. I will link down below part 1 of this video. Those foundations were more so the new, now, and popular foundations of the moment. These are a little bit more of the pure classics. The foundations that have stood the test of time and are consistently bestsellers, and some of these for many, many years. If you're looking for more of the hot, new now, temporary products, check out part 1. But we have the good old classics, and we're gonna see if I still think they're good in 2024. And fear not, if there's any more foundations missing, there will probably be a part 3 because I have more popular foundations to talk about. But today's focus, we're honing in on the cult classic long-term best-selling foundations. And my goal with this series is, if you're unsure about foundations and you're trying to narrow down the best fit for you, that you can reference these videos and that I can make your choice a little bit easier so that you're more likely going to land on that first choice favorite right away. Oh, and I also have skin tint version as well. If you want to look into skin tints, I have concealers, I have blushes, and I'm going to continue this, and hopefully we can get a lot more styles of products. But anyways, enough housekeeping, let's get into the foundations. So this is not a ranking style video. That would just be too difficult, and we all have good and bad skin days, you know. But I will say I am starting with foundations I like the least and then finishing up with groups of my favorite foundations. So chances are, if it's in the beginning of this video, not a favorite of mine. But most of the foundations in today's video I like quite a lot because these are cult classic long-term bestsellers. So usually it takes a good product to be able to earn that badge. Okay, so the first one I have, remember, it's not the worst one, but there are some caveats with it. This is the Hourglass Vanish Seamless Finish Foundation Stick. For years and years, this was the most popular foundation on YouTube, on social media, and I believe it continues to be a bestseller. Now, they have since launched a better foundation at Hourglass. I don't have it in this video, but it will be in part 3. But this one is the more long-term favorite of the line. So I'm using the shade Shell for this, and today the color matches are going to be all over the place, so you'll be able to see if they actually work on me or not. I've bought or received these foundations at all different stages, seasons, and colors of life, so some of the colors will be questionable. I'm actually going to use an Hourglass brush to blend this out. When it comes to this foundation, less is more. It has a relatively easy blend. One thing I will say about this foundation is it does eventually dry out, and you know, the more dry it is, the harder it is to blend out. Now with this, it's supposed to give a full coverage, a natural finish, and it's supposed to be for normal, dry, combo, and oily skin types, so it's going to be for everybody. And for so many years, people love this foundation because of how full coverage it was. Now this one, I was able to get more of a light coverage, but you absolutely have the ability to build this up to a fuller coverage. Now you'll notice that I placed this foundation first in the video. I don't love it because I feel like it sits a little on top of my skin and it's just a little too thick and cakey on my dry skin. I do find that an oily skin type tends to prefer this foundation. It's just a bit much for me, but do you see how that second layer completely changed the coverage? It's absolutely buildable. Now, there is a way that I do like to use this. The next foundation as well I will be talking about. I like this mixed with a tinted moisturizer or like a serum-y product. I really like it mixed with the Ilia serum. That way it really thins out, and I find it makes this product look so much more skin-like, and that way I do get to utilize this coverage that this gives. So on its own, it's not my favorite foundation or finish. It's just a little bit too heavy for me. And I feel like it kind of goes into the dry patches a little bit. But mixed with a serum style product, this is beautiful. That just begs the question, do you want to have to mix such an expensive product? This is $49 with another product. It's more so like I probably wouldn't repurchase this again, but I will finish it up and use it the way that I need to use it. The next foundation that I have is from Charlotte Tilbury. It's the Airbrush Flawless Finish Longwear Foundation. This is $49. I wear the shade 4 Neutral. They consider this to be a full coverage matte liquid foundation with a hybrid skincare formulation for poreless looking complexion. Now this one is similar to the Hourglass in that I feel it just sits on top of the skin and is a little bit cakey for me. It looks too heavy, it looks too makeup-y for myself. I really have to use a light layer to get a wear and finish that I like. But there are some great aspects of this foundation as well. It is quite perfecting for like a heavy-duty perfect skin makeup day. I will use this. I just need to mix it in again with a little bit of a serum-y product like the Ilia, for example. It thins this out perfectly, and it kind of combats the fact that this looks a little cakey and sits on top of the skin. So it's just another one of those products where I would repurchase it, but it cannot be used on its own for me, because then I notice it really emphasizes the dryness and it looks very heavy on the skin. But mixed in and thinned out just a little bit, then I get that perfect full coverage, smooth, perfected look. So it's just a little fix with this foundation, and I really like it. In terms of wear, this isn't the best wear in the world. It's not bad, but I have better, longer wearing foundation. So on dry skin, I don't really recommend this. It definitely needs an aid to come to its rescue to get it to be perfect, but it's like almost there of being great. I just need it tweaked a little bit. Which again begs the question, just like the Hourglass, is it worth the $49 price tag if I still need to tweak it? Just food for thought. Remember, all of these products in today's video in particular are cult classic favorites, so they are loved by many. Very few of these I don't like. These are all really good. Even the two that I mentioned, I can make them work for me and be very happy with them. These next two I have pretty similar thoughts about, so I'm actually excited to get them side by side to really see the differences. I just know these are not for my dry skin. Just a pre-warning. These next two recommendations are favorites amongst oily skin types. They don't work on my dry, crusty skin. So the first one that we have is from YSL. This is $62. It's the All Hours Luminous Matte Foundation. A bit contradictory there. This they claim to have full coverage and is a matte finish. It's supposed to have 24-hour wear with a weightless feel and luminous matte finish. But it says matte. But then they also say it's luminous matte. It's matte, just FYI. I'm going to use the shade MN1. This is a very liquidy consistency. Now, most of the foundations in today's video I've had for a while in my collection, so I can give a review with lots of experience, but there are some that I have reached for less and it's been a while, and I'll disclose that. Like this one, I haven't reached for the most because every single time that I've worn it, it's just too soul-sucking on my skin, so that would be why I'm not as experienced with this, because I truly feel as though it's just not made for my skin type. Now, I can make this work on an event night in the Miami heat. I no longer live in Miami, so I've reached for it even less, but on a really humid day, I would reach for this with some skin prep as well, because it does have very good lasting time. Everything about this foundation is awesome. I just don't favor it as somebody with dry skin. There are better options for me, but it is extremely long wearing. It does feel very weightless on the skin, and I highly recommend if you have oily skin. Now, if you're somebody who has to wear their makeup for a really long time on the skin, given your profession or for whatever reason, this is definitely a good option, especially with a combo and oily skin. But with dry skin, it can work too. You just need to put a little bit of extra love into your prep, but overwhelmingly so. It's a matte foundation. It gives almost, I would say, up to a full coverage. Not quite, but for me, a little bit too dry for me to use often. Mostly just save it in the summer for a really humid day that I do need to wear this. In my head, these are kind of one and the same. The Lancome Teint Idole Longwear Matte Foundation. I have very similar experiences. They say this is full coverage matte finish, but it gives more of like a natural matte finish that's sweat and waterproof and also ultra breathable. I'm going in with shade 310N. This has a little bit of a thicker consistency than the YSL. It's just so funny because I've had the same review of both of these products, and in my head they've always been kind of the same product, but I've never put them side by side. So even I'm curious to see what the differences are. But yeah, as somebody with dry skin, I don't recommend this unless you're really going to be out and about in the humidity and can prep your skin beforehand. I can get up to a full coverage with this, but I just don't favor it because it's not really comfortable on my skin type. This feels a little bit heavier than the YSL. The YSL has more of a breathable finish than this Lancome one, but this Lancome foundation has been around for years. In the last year or two, they have reformulated this with more, as they say, skin-loving ingredients. That's kind of the trendy thing to do right now, so they followed suit. But at base, I do believe it's probably a very similar formula if you've been a fan of this for many years. Okay, let's see the side-by-side between YSL. I think I get a little bit more coverage with the Lancome. It's a little bit heavier than the YSL, but it's also more like full glam perfecting. And both of these are going to last a very, very, very long time. My skin looks really nice in both of these for now, but I need proper skin prep for something more long wearing and less drying. Overall, these are very beautiful foundations, and I highly recommend if you are oily. This next one, is it a cult classic? I don't think it's quite earned the name, but it's been around for some time. So I'm talking about the Rare Beauty Liquid Touch Weightless Foundation. This is amongst the more affordable ones because a lot of these in today's video are quite bougie. This is $30. Now this one is a breathable formula that has a weightless feel of a serum with medium buildable coverage for truly wearable wear. And then it describes the finish as being on the natural side with that medium coverage. Truth be told, you guys, I have never been a fan of this foundation because I find the wear of it to break down really fast and look heavy on my skin. This is in the shade 210N, by the way. Now, this is a foundation where when I apply it, I feel like my skin looks nice. I love the very easy blend that this has. It just applies really great and smooth. But I find almost within the hour, or as soon as I pair it with other products, suddenly my base looks heavier, it looks a little bit more separated, it's clinging to pores and hairs on my face. So every time I apply this, I feel like it looks quite skin-like. It definitely has that medium coverage. It's not going to get you anywhere near full coverage, but it looks good. It looks exactly as described. But for me, it breaks down fast and goes the opposite direction. So this just doesn't have the longevity that I'm looking for. Next up, we have good old Too Faced Born This Way foundation. This is $47 and it's an oil-free lightweight foundation that diffuses the line between makeup and skin for an undetectable coverage. The finish is supposed to be natural, the coverage is supposed to be medium. I have the shade Light Beige, which for me right now, if your shade match is a bit dark, this is kind of an OG beauty guru favorite. I'm laughing at this shade on my skin. I really used to believe that I was light beige, but this is clearly too deep on me. Anyways, I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've used this foundation, so I'm kind of refreshing my mind. I used it for years for a while because it was such a popular product, but I just feel like I have so much more makeup knowledge than when I was using this foundation on the daily. I've never had an issue with wear on this though. I feel like my foundation has always looked good, but it's never topped my list as an all-time favorite foundation. I can tell you that. It's always been a little bit middle of the road. I do agree that it gives a medium coverage, but you can build it up a little bit past the point of medium if you need to, but I think it's best to keep as thin of a layer on this so it doesn't get too heavy on the skin. Looking at this up close, it looks nice, it looks healthy. This is kind of a foolproof foundation. It doesn't stand out, especially in this particular sea of foundations, because I do have some all-time favorites. I don't know, I just feel like this is a foundation when you use it, you don't dislike it, but for me, it's never been an all-time favorite. It's just kind of there, it does what it's supposed to do. It does have the claims that it has of it feeling pretty lightweight, being medium coverage, having that natural finish, just sort of getting the job done. But if I'm on a deserted island with a bottle of foundation, I hope that it's not this one, and I hope it's some other ones. Oh, you guys, I have a fun one from the drugstore that you might not have heard about for a while, but I have some drugstore ones that I need to buy for part 3, but one that I still have that was a drugstore classic is the Wet n Wild Photofocus foundation. This is a big beauty guru favorite, not necessarily like super long term, but I thought it'd be fun to throw in. And it says at Ulta this is $7.49, but I feel like this used to be like $4 or $5. Inflation, man. I have the shade Buff Bisque. I'll be honest, I haven't used this one in a while. These beginning ones I just haven't used as much in general because I don't like them as much. So that's kind of what happened there. So they say this has a matte finish, but it's supposed to look really good on camera. Oh, I forgot to put brow gel in my brows. Oh well. Okay, and we're just gonna blend this out. It has a really smooth, easy blend. This is definitely one where it's been a while since I've used it. It has a kind of paint-like scent, very chemically. It's always had that. So you kind of have to put up with that scent. But for $5, I will. Really easy, blurred kind of blend here. I would say it has about a medium level of coverage. Needs a good hydrated base because it is sticking to the hairs on my face a bit. It almost has a soft velvet matte blur to it. Seeing how buildable the coverage is. I will say, speaking for past me, I have always been a fan of this foundation. It certainly hasn't been a go-to for me, mostly because of the price point. I feel guilty about the foundations that I've spent more money on. But for $5, you know what? Wet n Wild can put together a good foundation. You know their tinted moisturizer? That's one of my all-time favorite tinted moisturizer. This one is also very good. I will say I do remember in the past, I don't think that the wear is exceptional. It wears fine, but it just doesn't look as good and smooth as it does in application. But it feels super lightweight, has a nice blurred, smooth look, doesn't look too dry on the skin. Wet n Wild does a good job with their foundation. So that's just a general statement. I thought this would be a fun one to add in, but I will admit I don't remember most experiences with this because it's been a while. Oh my goodness, I have the old packaging, but I do have, this is an icon. This is MAC Studio Fix Fluid Foundation. My shade is NC27, which is too dark on me, but this is absolutely a classic. I don't even have a pump on this. So it says it's a 24-hour buildable, breathable foundation made for all skin tones and texture, and you know MAC, they have the range on this. Now this I felt like has always been a bit heavier than they've claimed, but it is a very nice solid foundation. It's kind of similar to how I feel about the Too Faced Born This Way, where it's just a solid foundation. I'll never have a bad makeup day wearing this foundation. I have foundations where if given the choice, I would reach for that over this, but it is solid. It is not a bad recommendation. I would say it has more of a true medium coverage with a natural matte finish, but it doesn't cling to dry patches, and even though I do have a dry skin type, this, for being a natural matte finish, is not too drying on my skin. I mean, I don't mean to compare this versus the Wet n Wild, but the Wet n Wild almost had like a powdery velvet blur. This one is more skin-like despite its more natural matte finish. My skin looks very healthy and lively with this. This is a good foundation. I mean, a lot of people forget about it because MAC isn't quite as popular these days. But this is a solid foundation with that medium coverage, really easy workout, and it's certainly reliable. We're at the section of this video where these aren't my top favorite foundations, but these certainly are good foundations and I'm happy to reach for. This is one that I'm very happy to reach for. Maybe haven't reached for it as much due to its shade being a little bit dark on me. I just didn't get much color this past year. It's flexible, it's comfortable. This is still quite a good one, even in 2024. So this next one has to be one of the most iconic foundations ever. It Cosmetics CC Cream, and I love this product. We're at the point of this video where I love all of these foundations. This is $47, and it's an SPF infused foundation. The coverage it says is full. I don't think you get full coverage with this foundation, and a natural finish, and the formulation is more cream based as opposed to liquid. I've used this foundation for years. You can see how it is more creamy. This is not my shade. Why? I don't wear fair. Why do I have this? The heck? I wear light. Why did I put fair in my basket? Yeah. Light's gonna be more my style. I'm just gonna go over it. Those are two very different shades, honestly. I'm just gonna mix them. It's not gonna be my perfect match. I'm gonna use my IT Cosmetics brush for this one as well. Anyways, there is nothing that makes my skin smoother than this foundation. It can feel a little heavy sometimes. That's the con I will give it. But generally speaking, I feel like this gives my skin such a smooth, perfected look. But it can have the tendency to occasionally feel a bit heavy, kind of depending on whatever other products I pair it with. But every time I wear this, I just feel like it infuses into my skin and looks smooth. I would say it gives a medium full coverage. It doesn't quite hit full. I know this has kind of mixed opinions. It's a little infamous, if you will. But I really like this. I think it has really good ingredients in there. And I love the finish of this. Like, I think this looks so good when it's not set. And I think it lasts decently well when not set as well. So for me, this is a product that is 100% worth the hype. I love this smooth, perfected finish that it gives my skin. But I think something with the advertising, a lot of people feel like it's going to be a natural foundation. There's nothing natural about this foundation. It does sit a little bit like makeup on the skin, which I don't mind because I am wearing makeup. This is what I would wear when I want to look good and I want to have a little bit of a glow. I'm looking at it. The finish of this on its own is so unique. One of my favorite brands that creates the best foundations is Dior. So we're going to talk about the Backstage Face and Body Foundation. This is $43. You can use this on the body if you want. I personally never used it on the body. So this is a hydrating foundation that delivers buildable coverage, but it's supposed to also resist heat and humidity and leave kind of a luminous look. They describe the finish as natural but luminous with a medium coverage, and that I do agree with. For a while, this was one of my all-time favorite foundations. I think the way that it blends out is very serum-y. It's quite hydrating, and the coverage I get with this normally I would say is a true medium coverage. It doesn't build up to be anything more, but it does look nice and hydrated on the skin as well. I've never tried MAC Face and Body, but that's kind of the OG Face and Body foundation I can think of, and I know that one also has a cult following. But the Dior Face and Body, you can never go wrong with. I loved this for multiple years, and it did eventually end up leaving my collection for a few years. And semi-recently, for a Sephora sale, I had ended up repurchasing this foundation to kind of re-jog my memory, and I'm so happy that I did. I see why when this first launched, I was all about this foundation because it's For me, in ideal everyday foundation, I don't want light coverage. I like a medium coverage finish for everyday, something that's not too glowy but also not too flat since I do have dry skin. I like meeting in the middle there because I feel like foundations tend to wear longer if it's not glowy, and this gives just that. So for me, Dior Backstage has always been an ideal everyday foundation for myself. I mean, now you can really see how much more heavy duty the It Cosmetics is compared to like the Dior, which more of my natural skin is showing through. For a couple of years there, my favorite everyday foundation, one of my most recommended foundations, and I'm talking like right in the very beginning of my channel. I wore this all throughout college. My favorite was the Makeup Forever HD Skin Foundation. Now, a couple of years ago, they did reformulate and repackage this, and I did side by side. This is actually better than the original foundation, and I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to do that. This is $47, and it's an undetectable liquid foundation that blurs and covers imperfections for 24 hours. It's supposed to give a really true to skin finish with a medium coverage natural finish. That's like music to my ears. I love a medium coverage natural finish. By the way, using the shade 1N14, but if I miss saying any of the shade names, I will have them written in the description box. So while this was my favorite foundation for a few years there, I've since tried a lot more foundations, and you know, this one no longer hits that #1 spot, but it still is a very reliable foundation that I enjoy using a lot. Just using the Rem Beauty foundation brush, it instantly feels cooling on the skin because at this point of trying on foundations, my skin is a little bit irritated from all the removing and reapplying, and this instantly just makes the skin feel a little bit better. And I do agree with the claims that this does have more of a natural, medium, true to skin finish, hence why I loved it for so many years. You can see it's like not completely flat. It does give that skin-like glow, but you can see my skin underneath. This one wears really well also. It doesn't feel too heavy on the skin. Again, kind of that ideal everyday foundation vibe that I was talking about with the Dior Face and Body. This one is very similar to that one. So love this one a lot. Just a reliable formulation that's been a favorite of mine for years. I don't think that this one will disappoint you. I will say they do have a new glow version, which I think the glow version is a little bit more unique, so I like it for that reason a little bit more. But more day to day, I'm gonna reach for the HD Skin over the Ultra Glow. It is not an iconic foundation video without mentioning Estee Lauder Double Wear. I love this foundation. I'm using the shade 2N1 Desert Beige. This is $52, and they claim it has full coverage and it's matte, and that is accurate. This is my, if I'm going to Disney and for some reason want to look really good, this is the foundation that I go for. This is, and I'm saying this with big meaning, a lot of impact behind the words, the most Longwear foundation on the market ever that's actually good. So it does deliver that super long wear, budge-proof, waterproof, smudge-proof wear without being like too uncomfortable. So there's a balance. I'm sure there's probably products out there that have longer wear that are more heavy duty, but it's probably like putting literal paint on your face and really uncomfortable. This is one of those foundations where not only is it not going to budge, but it actually looks good on the skin, and it doesn't feel like it's drying the life out of my skin. Like, you know, I talked a lot earlier about how good and long wearing like the Lancome was and the YSL All Hours, but I feel like on my dry skin, those are too dry. The Estee Lauder one is the only super matte, pretty full coverage, long wear foundation that actually doesn't dry out my skin as well. So if you're here looking for something super long wear, Estee Lauder is the one that is not going to disappoint. Now, it does claim that it gives full coverage. I disagree with that. I don't think it gives the most full coverage. I think it gives medium buildable to a buildable full coverage. It's definitely higher than medium coverage, but it's not going to make all of your problems disappear. But she still gives really good coverage. Don't get me wrong, like look at the difference between this and the Makeup Forever, but it doesn't make all of the freckles disappear. But anyways, this wins the award for Best Longwear Foundation in today's entire video. With each round, I feel like it's getting juicier and juicier. One of my probably most long-time, deeply loved favorites is Armani Luminous Silk. I've talked about this so much on my channel throughout the years. I would wear this one all throughout college for like nights out because I knew this was gonna last me. This is $69. She's not cheap. They do sell a mini size, but this gives buildable medium coverage. And listen, it says luminous silk. It gives a luminous, glowy skin finish. It's not very luminous. I don't know where they get the name and this description from, but it's beautiful. I would say it's closer to like a natural matte, even though luminous is literally in the name. But this is truly and will, I think, forever be one of my all-time favorite foundations because the word that I'd use to describe it is reliable. I know that no matter what, if I wear this foundation, my makeup is going to look good and it's gonna look good for a long amount of time. Now, it is medium buildable coverage. You're not going to get full coverage with this, but a good, happy, nice, medium coverage. It feels lightweight on the skin. You can manipulate it a little bit. Like, you can get this foundation to look a little bit more luminous with like a luminous base and luminous or cream products over top. But it just makes my skin look better. And I can build this up with the correct products to give this a more full coverage look as well. It's also about what you pair it with. But at base level, it looks like your skin, but better in an unnatural way. It's not like literal skin, but this makes you look perfect, if you ask me. And just for me, the thing that's huge is no matter what, when it comes to this foundation, I'm having a good makeup day. My base is going to look good when I wear this 100% of the time. It doesn't act funny with other primers. So I would go off and say this is probably the most reliable foundation in my collection. No doubts, if I need to look good, I'm reaching for this. You see, like, they call it luminous silk. It looks like silk on, ouch. It looks like silk on the face, but it does not look luminous. Still love it though. This was totally a love at first sight foundation. From the moment this hit my skin, I knew it was going to be amazing. Sometimes you just get that feeling and that experience with really good products. This is the NARS Light Reflecting Advanced Skincare Foundation. It's currently their best-selling foundation, and for good reason, because if you ask me, it is their best foundation ever. It's $52. By the way, in Luminous Silk, I wear the shade 4.5, and then I wear the shade Patagonia. Well, I don't wear Patagonia. I feel like this is a bit dark on me. But anyways, this one is a particularly liquidy formula. So they say this is one of those skincare hybrid products. Natural finish that blurs quickly and smooths while visibly improving skin clarity over time. That's just going to be the skincare ingredients that they're talking about. But the way that I would describe the finish of this on the skin is truly velvet. It does blur the skin, it does smooth the skin, and it makes the skin look visibly soft and poreless. I don't know how they do this, but this is like rubbing velvet all over your face in a good way, of course, because some foundations might have a velvety finish, but they'll sit on top of the skin. You know, they look a little heavy. This is like a velvet, but it's within your skin. It's gorgeous. The coverage, I would say, is a medium coverage, on the heavier side of medium, and they describe the finish as natural, which I do agree with for sure. Can you believe Armani calls this luminous? The NARS is more luminous than this. Anyways, Patagonia, if you are a shade match for me. More of a summer shade, that's for certain. I do have another one of this in a lighter shade, but this is what I grabbed and what we're working with right now. Not to mention, of course, the wear time on this is very good as well. This is another one where, just like the Luminous Silk, I feel like I know I'm going to have a beautiful makeup day when I wear this. And just comparing it to the Armani, because they're side by side, the NARS I feel like is a little bit more coverage. It's a little bit more heavy duty on the skin for more glam looks, I would say. This is not for like natural makeup people, but if you have texture and stuff, and textured dry skin in particular, I think You will absolutely love this foundation. It is simply amazing. Oh, and I forgot to mention, like, you see that glow, right? They call it like light reflecting. There is a little bit to it. It's natural, but not natural matte. It's like natural glow, but not too glowy. If you're a random girl on the street and you ask me for a foundation recommendation, there is a high probability that it's going to be one of these two, depending on what kind of look you're going for and what kind of skin type you have. I was excited to put them side by side, but Dior creates the best foundations of all time, generally speaking. There is not a Dior foundation that I do not love. So, the Forever line for me is a good standard recommendation for anybody. They have the Skin Glow and then the Forever Matte, which needs a good shaking of the formula. These sit standing upright, so they separate a little weird. Anyways, that's beside the point. There's a high chance that you'll probably love one of these two foundations, so I always recommend these, and Dior is best of the best of the craft of foundation making. So we'll do the matte first. What shade do I wear? I have two different shades. I'm 2 right now. 2.5N is the summer shade I go for. Let's start off with the Forever Matte. This is $57. And they say it's transfer-proof, skincare ingredients, matte formula, medium coverage. Something that I've always said about luxury foundations in general is that high-end and drugstore just can't beat them. Obviously not all luxury foundations, but typically speaking, a good luxury foundation has a particular finish about it that normal high-end drugstore products can't touch. For the most part, I will agree, for luxury makeup, I do think a lot of the times you are paying for the name, but there's something about a standout luxury formula that is luxurious on the skin, and Dior is a brand that I feel is worth every penny from the luxury category when it comes to foundations. There's other things from Dior's line that are a joke, of course, but foundations is where they are worth every penny because their foundations cannot be duped or replicated with a more affordable alternative. So this is a matte foundation, and I have dry skin, and this is not drying on me at all. So I would wear this a lot for events in Miami when I wanted to look my best. You know, it was between this or Estee Lauder, but this, if you ask me, looks even smoother than Estee Lauder. It's not as bulletproof as Estee Lauder, but this is still super reliable. Like if I was going out in Miami, I needed my skin to look smooth, I'm wearing this. I mean, if there's one thing that you need to get out of this video, if you're even overwhelmed by the options that I'm giving you, go for the Dior Forever line. Whether you're going to decide to go matte or glowy, these are probably your safest bet because you can get full glam with this. I'm not saying you can get light coverage, you can't, but just apply a little bit less. It will still look and feel really nice without being too heavy. This for me is like a golden standard matte foundation, and it has that luxurious velvety finish to the skin that's really smooth, not sitting on the skin at all, that other brands just can't dupe. It's unique and worth every penny. Moving over to her sister, the Skin Glow. So they describe this as medium full coverage. I don't think it gives full. It gives hydration to the skin, 86% skincare ingredients, and a medium coverage. This shade is 0.5 lighter than the matte one. And so with this, you'll be able to see the side-by-side difference. I mean, with Makeup Theory, my recommendation, if you have dry skin, you might like the Skin Glow better. If you have oily skin, you might like the matte better. But it really depends on your preferences because these foundations are so high quality, I just don't see them not working for any skin type, if I'm being honest. Except obviously if you're exceptionally oily, then you definitely want to get the matte one. But you know, if you're kind of on the cusp or in the middle, not oily but not too oily, maybe combo skin, you can get away with both. Just depends on picking your poison. You know, what kind of finish do you want? Do you want it to be a little bit more natural and dewy? Do you want it to be a little bit more heavy duty and matte? That's where it comes to preference. You can't go wrong with either one. Both wear really great. My skin appreciates both. And this one definitely gives my skin a little bit more hydration, but the matte is so good, it doesn't really matter. It's just whatever finish I like better. But let's say, God forbid, for whatever reason, I could only own 2 foundations. I'm not committing that I would only pick these 2, but this is all I would need, and I would be happy. Crying, because I'm a girl who needs more than 2, but that is an option. My skin is going to be so relieved with the news. We are on the last foundation. Honestly, it's been a little bit of time since I've worn this, but I was excited to pull it back out. Pat McGrath Labs Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Weightless Foundation. $69. When this came out, people were appalled at the price of this because it is crazy, but then everybody ended up loving this foundation. It's so strange that this is Pat McGrath's only foundation, I swear. Why has she not focused on complexion? Anyways, I was about to go on a rant. Weightless hydrating foundation with a serum-like texture, customizable coverage, filter-like soft focus finish. This is truly like a serum. It is one of a kind in consistency, and I agree, you can get really customizable coverage with this. You can get a really light, natural look. Look at this. Just like a serum, to be honest, I probably need to buy a new one, and it's worth repurchasing. I have the shade Light Medium 9, which if you are a shade match for me, is a great shade for me. I could probably go a little bit lighter for my winter color, but with a lighter coverage, if I do the more natural look with this, Light Medium 9 still works for me. I would say you are definitely not getting more than a full coverage finish with this, but this is very customizable in the amount of coverage you can get with this because you can very easily just get a really light tint, and the way they describe it is absolutely perfect. It has a serum-like texture, filter-like soft focus finish, and it lasts a really long time. The wear time on this is great, and it feels like you're wearing nothing. This would be another good one to have to start off as like an everyday foundation. It is quite luxurious. You get that luxurious experience when using it and purchasing it. But for me, I would describe this as a second skin, but a little bit better kind of product, and you can build it up from there to get a little bit more coverage from this. But if you hate the way foundation feels on your skin and you need something light, I'm looking at all of the foundations in today's video. This is easily the most lightweight, undetectable feeling of a foundation in today's video, and I think it's great for every skin type, whether you're dry, oily, mature, combo. This is going to be a good foundation for you. She really created a magical foundation, and once everybody got over the price when this first launched, everybody loved it. This ended up being, even if they didn't realize how good it was at first, people would keep coming back to this, and they were eventually ended up realizing like this is such a good foundation. And even to this day, even though it's been out for a few years now, it is still a unique foundation on the market. So we love this one too. I recommend this one as well. So many good foundations in today's video. So those are all of the 17 foundations that I had to try on for you guys, but I still want to talk about 2 more. I don't currently have them in my possession, but I've used them enough in the past. I did at one point own these foundations, so I want to talk about them as well because they are pretty iconic. So the first one that we have is from Fenty Beauty. This is the Pro Filt'r Soft Matte Longwear Liquid Foundation. This is the first foundation that they launched that came out with the first Fenty Beauty line that launched like the day of, and everybody went crazy over this because it had such an extensive shade range. I'm not saying Fenty was the first because I know brands like MAC and Bobbi Brown had great shade ranges, but this was like in the age of social media, the first brand to really come out with a line that had such extended shades. This foundation's $40. It's a soft matte long wearing foundation. It can fight heat, sweat, shine, full coverage, matte finish. I would say I do agree with both, but I do not like this foundation. This is too drying on my skin. It always looks cakey. It feels heavy. I'm just not a fan of this. I've always been its biggest hater. Sorry, Fenty. Luckily, they launched their Soft Lit foundation this past year, and it is one of my all-time favorite foundations now. I talked about that foundation in part 1 if you want the demo and my full thoughts. So much better for more dry skin. This just didn't work for me. I know so many oily girls in particular who love this foundation, but it's not for me. If you have dry skin, go for their soft lit. Don't recommend this. The next one that I have, I decluttered because I did not like it either. It's from NARS, who created the light reflecting foundation. That is so amazing. But this one was huge as well, the Natural Radiant Longwear foundation. So this one is $52. It's a buildable full coverage foundation, 16 hours of lightweight, natural, fade resistant wear, Everything about this foundation is untrue except that yes, this foundation is super full coverage, but this foundation is a hot mess expressed on my face. It transfers like a mofo. It swims all over my face. Anything that touches it leaves a foundation mark. It does not set down. It is one of the messiest, most transferable foundations I have ever dealt with. It looks heavy on my skin, and I'm okay with a little bit of heaviness on the skin as long as it's smooth and it's giving me full coverage, right? You better give me full coverage if you're going to sit a little bit heavy. But everything about this I did not like. I tried it a billion times over and over and over to try and understand because so many people love it. If you love it, let me know why. I'm just kidding, but a lot of people do love it, but it absolutely did not work for me at all. And those were my thoughts on 19 of the most classic, iconic foundations on the market. Some a little bit more iconic than others, I know, but I wanted to talk about some big players in the foundation industry since foundation is one of the biggest categories in makeup, especially right now. I mean, foundations I feel like is a category that never dies. Everybody loves foundations, whether it be skin tint, full coverage, tinted moisturizer. Everybody always wants coverage on their face. So if you haven't already checked out part 1, make sure you do that as well as my skin tint video. At the end of this, I'm going to have hundreds of foundation reviews on. But if you like this video, make sure you physically give it a like and comment down below because I do already have a list ready to go for part 3 featuring even more viral foundations. And if you've tried any of these foundations, comment down below your thoughts on them, your skin type, why you love it, why you hate it. I love using the comment section as a resource to help me share others' opinions as well as you guys talking amongst each other. And if you think I forgot any viral foundations and you want to hear about them in part 3, comment that down below. I'm still adding to that list as we speak. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Make sure you subscribe to my channel for more makeup updates and reviews. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye guys, have a good one.